Generation 4 is so nostalgic for most people, and Platinum is consistently in the conversation for the best Pokemon game. But when Diamond and Pearl were released at the start of the generation, kicking off the DS era, well, let's just say there were a few teething issues, the main one being the regional Sinnoh Pokédex. Now, don't get me wrong, Platinum solved this problem and produced one of the most iconic Pokédexes ever, but Pearl, not so much. So, I decided to see if I could beat Pokemon Pearl using only native Sinnoh Pokemon, or more directly, using the awful Pokédex. And once the intro sequence is over, we get jumped by some birds, and of course I choose Chimchar. I would like to use a fire Pokemon, thank you very much, Game Freak. We destroy the bird, and the professor gives us the Pokemon, and we get Pokeballs, and the run officially begins. And the early game is perfect for team building. We can pick up a Bidoof by the lake, and on Route 201 we get a Starly, and then we fumble the Shinx on Route 202 due to a crit. But it's fine, there are more opportunities for electric types, and we won't fumble again. Will we? Anyway, we can pick up a Budju north of Jubilife City, and as we try to progress, our rival jumps us, wanting to battle again, but at this point his starter doesn't have a stab move, so Chimchar can take down both of his Pokemon. And then, on the same route, we crit a Shinx. Again. The universe really doesn't want us to have a Luxray. Not dwelling on the negatives, once we arrive in Orberg, I don't waste any time and I head straight to the gym, so confident that I don't even level up the whole team, just Budju. I set up a growth first turn as Leader Rock gets Stealth Rocks up, then a Mega Drain gets the Oko against the Geodude. Onix comes out and gets off a Screech, but again we can just Oko with another. His ace Craniados is out and goes for a leer to drop our defence even further, and the Mega Drain leaves it on what must be 1 HP. I know they're going to use their potion, but I don't like being at -3 defence, so I switch into our bird to reset and go back into our plant on another leer, and after taking a pursuit, we can KO with a Mega Drain. That is the first badge in the bag, and let's hope they're all as simple as that one. Back in Jubilife, Bidoof shows Team Galactic who's the boss, and then we press onwards to the Windworks to take on the first commander. But with our team upgrades, this was a piece of cake. Bibarel has Simple, which doubles stat changes, so after 3 defence kills we are at +6 defence, and fire off a rollout to Oko the Zubat. Purugly comes out and the ugly cat scratches us, and a rollout does half before berry recovery. The next turn, a feint attack does little and a rollout gets the KO. Now the Windworks have been saved, I decide to leave my encounter and come back for the Drifloon. Spoiler, I forget to come back. And on Route 205 we can pick up a Shellos. Disclaimer, I have never used one of these, but it quickly becomes one of the best Sinnoh Pokemons I have used. And then up north in Eterna Forest we get our 6th team member, which is Bunnery. And thankfully Cheryl gave us no trouble in capturing it. And we head straight out of the forest, and as soon as Staravia is at the level cap, I challenge the gym, and just like the first, this didn't exactly give us a headache. Cherubi gets smashed by a wing attack, and Turtwig gets the exact same treatment, getting O-code, and this brings out her ace Roserade, which is what our Budju is aspiring to be. A Grass Knot does little, and our wing attack brings it deep into the red before berry recovery, but this brings it out of potion range so we can KO with another. I know that early gyms are meant to be easy, but come on. Anyway, we take on Commander Jupiter using exactly the same strategy as before. Bibarel is incredible. And just to add, east of Eterna we get a Chingling as our next encounter. Great. Not only is Chingling possibly the most forgettable Sinnohmon Scratch that. Possibly the most forgettable Pokemon of all time. But it is immediately outdone and replaced by Bronzor, who we pick up under the Cycle Road, and Bronzor immediately proves its worth against our rival as he jumps us yet again in our home city. He leads with Starly, and Bronzor can pick up the KO with a few extra sensories. This brings out Ponyta, and Fire is its only weakness in Gen 4. It is incredibly overpowered. But we switch into Bibarel, who can pick up the KO with a rollout. Roselia comes in and sets up a Leech Seed, so I switch back into Bronzor, who unfortunately gets paralysed, so I have to switch again into Staravia, who can KO with a wing attack. His starter, Prinplup, is his last Pokemon, and our bird can whittle it down and get the KO, defeating the rival yet again. How many times am I going to say that this run? Now this is where the difficulty ramps up. Both of the upcoming gyms have the same level cap, and as the king of procrastination, I decide to catch a hippopotamus instead of planning. Sandstream is huge, and unfortunately it is time for Bibarel to leave the squad. Ultimately though, I do decide Meleeing first, and my strat is absolutely shameful. Staravia gets off 6 double teams and then proceeds to OHKO the Meditite with an Aerial Ace. The Machoke takes 2, but we avoid the Rock Tomb, and then Lucario comes out. It misses a Drain Punch as an Aerial Ace crits and does 2/3 before Berry recovery. It misses another as we bring it low, and the next turn we can finish it off. Shameful, yes, but very, very effective. And as a reward for soloing Melee, we pick up the HM for Fly, which Staravia will be very, very happy to utilise. And with Roselia and Gastrodon, Wake should be a breeze. Gyarados is scary, but Bronzor is scarier. We take a bite and fire off a Hypnosis, but we miss. Brine brings us to about half as our Hypnosis finally connects, and we can fire off a Rock Tomb, which also gets a speed drop. It stays asleep, and we miss the second Rock Tomb. It is asleep for a 3rd turn, and I decide to confuse it, and it stays asleep again, and a Rock Tomb connects. We now finally outspeed, but a 3rd doesn't even bring it to half. I then put it to sleep again, and finally bring it below half, and then he heals up. I carry on chipping away at it, and get a crit to bring it back below half. It wakes up, but it's still confused and it hurts itself. And then put it to sleep yet again, and we can finally take it down with another crit while staying above half. Bronzor is a beast. His Ace Floatzel is out, and we get hit by a Pursuit, and we miss our Hypnosis. Ice Fang brings us low, but we connect and put it to sleep. I then get off a Rock Tomb to lower its speed before switching into Roselia. Floatzel stays asleep, and a Giga Drain does huge damage and KOs. Quagsire is his final mon, and a 4x stab Giga Drain OHKOs, claiming our 4th badge. But before we can leave Pastoria for good and put the mid-game behind us, our rival demands we battle, and we take him to the cleaners yet again. Starly is smashed by Bronzor. A level 25 Starly is criminal, by the way. Hippopotamus chomps on the Ponyta, but it ultimately goes down to Sandstorm. Prinplup is almost KO'd by a combo of Giga Drain and Sandstorm, but we get it the next turn. And his final mon is Roselia, who Staravia destroys with an Aerial Ace. A nice easy battle following that bump in the road. And after Cynthia gives us the item required to move the side up, we can head north to do some story bits, and then after some grinding and some incredible evolutions, it is time to face the 5th gym leader, the Ghost Master Fantina. She leads with a hot air balloon, and I with our Hippo. It boosts its evasion with Minimize, and it instantly works as we miss a Crunch. After a few turns we finally connect with a Crunch, which crits and gets the KO. Aftermath does do a fair bit though. She sends out her Ace, Miss Magius, and a Magical Leaf brings us low, but we get off a Yawn. I switch into Bronzong, who takes Magical Leaf before the Witch falls asleep. A Rock Tomb lowers their speed and brings it to about half with Sandstorm Chip. It wakes up another Magical Leaf, does little, and a second Rock Tomb brings it low before Berry. We then get confused, but thankfully break through for the Rock Tomb crit KO. Gengar is her final mon, and a Shadow Claw doesn't even bring us to half as an extra sensory almost KOs. She heals up, and I take the opportunity to Rock Tomb for Chip so that the next turn our extra sensory can KO from that range. She has a pretty cool team, to be fair, credit where credit's due, but just Bronzong is incredible. And before we can even catch our breath, our rival challenges us yet again. And due to how easy he has been, I let my guard down. He leads with Staravia, and it can't do much against our Hippo, and after a few turns, it goes down. Prinplup then comes out, and I switch to Roselia. A Giga Drain almost KOs, and I assume he will heal, so I set up an Ingrain. He, however, does not heal, but misses a Metal Claw. I then click Cut instead of Giga Drain, and we don't KO, so an Aerial Ace does big damage, but it goes down to Sandstorm. Ponyta comes out, and this is when it dawns on me, you can't switch if you are ingrained. Basically serving my Rose on a plate to the pony. Roselia does actually take down the fire type, but is brought incredibly low, and Heracross comes out, and I still can't switch. The bug takes down our Roselia due to a huge misplay on my part, especially as we get the shiny stone straight after this battle. Fortunately, Staraptor can come in and wrap up the battle by defeating both Heracross and his own Roselia with a fly. Absolutely fuming. The void on the team needs to be filled, and I don't think our bench can fill it. Sorry, Bibarel. So I go to the Lost Tower and get a Misdreavus. Mismagius being one of the few new Evos being introduced in this game and not in the Platinum extension. Byron, the Steel leader, is the next one up on the chopping block, and it's another simple one. Back to basics as I used our starter Infernape, and we OHKO the Bronzor with a Flame Wheel. We can then OHKO his Ace Bastiodon with a Close Combat. This brings out Steelix, and a Close Combat does over half, but it only sets up a Sandstorm, so we can KO with a Flame Wheel the next turn, defeating the leader and claiming the badge. Underleveled, I may add. And after sorting all of the lake shenanigans, we can head north through Mount Coronet and emerge on the snowy route, where we can pick up two new encounters, Snover and Sneasel. But if I'm honest, I actually can't be arsed to catch any more Pokemon or level them up, as I think the team is looking good and I'm lazy. This includes Garchomp. I know it is an incredible Pokemon, but also I want a bit of a challenge. 7th gym time, and it's Ice type, and this should be simple, right? Candice leads with Snover, and our starter can OHKO with a Flame Wheel. We can also OHKO her Ace Abomasnow with another Flame Wheel. Sneasel also gets OHKO'd by a Mach Punch, and this brings out Medicham. A Flame Wheel almost does half as they use Bulk Up, and due to the defense boost, our next Flame Wheel does a lot less, and they set up another. Unfortunately, hail damage brings it into healing range, so she full restores as we switch into Hippowdon. Now Sandstorm is up, I switch into Bronzong as they set up a third bulk up. They then fire off a Force Palm which almost KOs and paralyzes, but we do get off the hypnosis to put it to sleep. I obviously switch into Mismagius and they wake up the next turn and set up another, but fortunately a Shadow Ball can KO from that range. Medicham is an underwhelming Pokemon, but with pure power and setting up like that, I was scared. But anyway, 7 gym badges. It's just too easy. We have to crack on with some more story stuff, and it takes us to the Galactic HQ, where we can find a Dusk Stone and evolve our ghost into the Mismagius before facing down against Galactic boss Cyrus. His Murkrow fires off a Nightshade and avoids the Rock Tomb. A great first turn. He fires off another, bringing us low, and we can fortunately collect and bring it low. We switch into our Hippo as he heals up, but we can take it down with a couple of strengths. Sneasel comes out and I switch into Infernape, who tanks the Ice Punch and can OHKO with a Mach Punch. Golbat is his final mon and Gastrodon needs some time in the spotlight. It doesn't really pose a threat and we can whittle it down and KO, beating the evil man. He gives us the Master Ball and then just dips. We then free the late Guardians, but Commander Saturn stands in our way and thankfully they pose little threat. There's a theme going on here. Kadabra is dealt with by Bronzong with a few Rock Tombs despite trying to heal up. Bronzor is out and Infernape can OHKO with a Flame Wheel and their final mon is Toxic Croak and Infernape does all the legwork before Hippowdon can come in and get the KO. The late Guardians are freed and then we have to head back up the mountain for some more story business. Getting my steps in. At the peak of the mountain, the legendary is summoned and we have to stop Team Galactic, and standing in our way is the double battle with Barry. This can be a huge problem in Nuzlocke, but this went kind of smooth. I wanted to focus down one side first to isolate their strongest mons. The first Bronzor is handled by Hippowdon, no thanks to Munchlax, and this brings out Skuntank. Of course they target us with Flamethrower and it brings us low as the strength does little. Munchlax still isn't attacking, so I switch into Infernape and thankfully they both target Munchlax on the switch and a close combat KOs Skuntank, bringing out Golbat as our rival's Munchlax goes down. I switch into Bronzong and the next turn we KO Golbat, making it a 2v1. Our rival finally pulls their weight and KOs the Bronzor, bringing out the Fat Cat, but the ally Staraptor OHKOs with a close combat. Their final mon is another Golbat and this is easily dealt with, defeating the commanders. Our rival then thankfully heals our Pokemon and we get no time to think before facing against the Galactic boss Cyrus. Fortunately he only has 4 mons, but his team is scary as they are now all fully evolved. A Dart Pulse from his Honchkrow does way too much damage for my liking and the strength does about a third, but he heals up the next turn for some reason as we fire off another strength. A Drill Peck brings us low and our Hippo finally brings it below half. I switch into Gastrodon on a resisted Steel Wing and we can KO the next turn with a Body Slam. Gyarados comes out and I switch into Bronzong on an Aqua Tail. A Giga Impact does bring us low, but we get off a Rock Tomb and on the recharge turn I go for another, but we miss. I switch back into Gastrodon on another Giga Impact, which brings us super low, and on the recharge I fish for Paralysis with Body Slam, but it doesn't happen. I switch into Miss Mangus on the Giga Impact that doesn't affect us, and thankfully we outspeed and KO with a Shadow Ball. Weavile comes out and predicting the Dart move, I bring out Infernape on the resisted Night Slash and a priority Mach Punch can OHKO. Bringing out his final mon Crobat and our team is looking super weak. No thanks to having to use a HM mon, meaning we only have 5 team members. I can't switch anything in, so I risk it and stay in, and a Bite does little. Our Flame Wheel does a quarter, but unfortunately doesn't get the burn. I then realise what a mistake it would be to lose our only Fire type, so I switch into Bronzong, and I guess it must have seen the KO with Air Slash and Bronzong can survive it. We get confused and hurt ourselves, but survive on just 2 HP as Sandstorm brings the bat below half. Obviously I switch now into Miss Magius, and we take an Air Slash. Sandstorm brings us below half, but for some reason they go for Cross Poison instead of Bite. We fire off a Psybeam that doesn't KO, leaving it on what must be 1 HP, but Sandstorm finally takes it out. Phew. I feel like Arceus really looked down on us then, or it was dodgy AI, but I'm not complaining. We beat Cyrus and have defeated Team Galactic once and for all. Thankfully, though, the battle against the 8th gym leader, Volkner, is fairly simple. He leads with Raichu that sets up a light screen, and I with Gastrodon, who fires off a Mud Bomb. A Brick Break does little, and another Mud Bomb brings it low. He heals up and uses his potion on Raichu, which was my plan. This back and forth carries on for a while until we finally get the KO, but aborts just 40 HP in the process. His Octillery then comes out and I assume it will go for the 4x super effective energy ball, so I switch into Infernape to resist, but it goes for Aurora Beam, which is even better. I don't stay in and I switch into Bronzong on the charge beam and it does get the boost. At this point it seems like they're just clicking random moves, but Bronzong doesn't care as it puts them to sleep and can fire off a few extra sensories and get the KO, staying above half health. His ace Luxray is his penultimate mon and I switch into Powdon and get the Oko with an Earthquake. I decide to stay in when Amber Bomb comes out and an Earthquake Crunch combo can get the KO, claiming our 8th and final badge and opening up Victory Road for us. As always, Victory Road is nothing to shout about, but at the end of it is the Pokemon League, and before we can take a breather, our rival demands a battle for the final time, and it is time to get revenge. His Staraptor U-turns first turn against Bronzong into Rapidash, but we went for Rock Tomb, which does a good chunk. Gastrodon can come in on a Fire Blast, which does a laughable amount, and a Surf can KO from that range. Now is a good time to say that this battle is a joke, as the Elite Four level cap is so high there is nothing our rival can do. Roserade comes out, it is still raw and I don't want to talk about it, but we can predict the grass move, switch into Staraptor, and after avoiding the grass whistle we can Oko with a fly. Heracross comes out, and again we can just outspeed an Oko with another fly. He sends out his own Staraptor and we switch into Bronzong on a close combat, and then we take another and miss our Rock Tomb. Wonderful. We have to switch and go into Gastrodon, but they U-turn and go into Snorlax. This is a long back and forth with body slams and recover, but we can whittle it down and it just goes for rest, which is annoying, but I take the opportunity to go into Infernape and Oko with a close combat. Staraptor comes back out and I switch into Gastrodon, and using recover to stay healthy we bring it low and they U-turn again into Empoleon. That bird is an absolute menace. Anyway, Empoleon brings us low with a Brine and we do not get the paralysis with his body slam, but we utilise staying healthy with recover again and eventually KO with a Mud Bomb, bringing back out his bird. Intimidate doesn't matter as it's too weak and we can finish it with a Surf. Considering the level cap, that battle was annoying, but revenge is sweet. And after everyone's up to the level cap, there is nothing else we can do apart from pray to Arceus and head on in. First up on the Elite Four gauntlet is Aaron, and this is a nice easy battle. Staraptor Oko's Dustox, and this brings out his ace Drapion. We miss a fly and get poisoned, so when they are weak we switch into Infernape, who can get the KO with a couple of flamethrowers. He can then Oko the Beautifly, Heracross, and then the Vespiquen, all with Flamethrower. Bertha is next, and I don't think it'll be as simple. Well, it would be as simple as Aaron if we had a Roserade, but oh well. Quagsire is her lead, and I lead with Miss Magius. A Shadow Ball does a huge amount as they set up a double team, but we get through the evasion boost and we can KO the next turn. Sudowoodo comes out and I try to get fancy with a charge beam, and we do get the boost as they set up a sandstorm. A Sucker Punch does massive damage, but due to the special defense boost they survive the Shadow Ball very low. She uses a full restore and I fire off a Shadow Ball which does 2/3. I know I can KO, but I switch just in case they Sucker Punch, and they do, and we go into Gastrodon, who can KO the next turn with a Mud Bomb. Golem comes out and this is just a straight Oko with a Surf. And again, her ace Hippowdon comes out and we can Oko that as well with another Surf. Honestly, Gastrodon is incredible. Whiscash is her final mon, and her Body Slam does get the paralysis, and their Zen Headbutt does little. Another Body Slam brings it below half, and a Rock Slide tickles us. We bring it into the red and she full restores. I was not aware they had more than one, that is on me. But it's no biggie, we can just bring it down with a flurry of Body Slams. We are handling these masters very well, and that carries on with Flint, the Fire Elite Four. His Rapidash gets smashed by an Earthquake from Hippowdon for the one shot. His Infernape puts up a fight and does huge damage with a Sun Boosted Flare Blitz, but we get the KO with another Earthquake. Lopunny is out next and charms us, lowering our attack, so we do about a third. So I switch into our own Infernape and KO with a Mach Punch. His Steelix then gets Oko'd by a Flamethrower, and his final mon, Drifblim, comes out. His last three mons being famous fire types, of course. A flamethrower does about 50% and we get crit by an ominous wind, but luckily no Omni boost. So I switch into Bronzong as they set up a double team, and we hit through evasion and KO with a payback. The final trainer of the Elite Four is Lucian, and his psychic types can be tricky. He leads with Mr. Mime and we bring it deep into the red with a crunch as they set up a light screen. And after healing up we get a high roll and KO with another crunch / sandstorm chip combo. Say that 3 times fast. His Medicham does huge damage with an ice punch and our earthquake brings it low. They then go for Drain Punch instead of the potion, but it doesn't save them from the incoming crunch that KOs. Alakazam the Beast comes out and I switch into Bronzong on the energy ball. A psychic then tickles and we can respond with a payback. The exact same thing happens to Girafarig. His Bronzong then comes out, and as much as I would love a Bronzong versus Bronzong showdown, I switch into Mismagius, but 2 psychics and Sandstorm brings us low, so I switch into Gastrodon as they get off a Calm Mind. This could be scary, but we do get the paralysis with our first body slam. We then get a crit serve for the KO. Bosh! Elite Four down and we didn't even break a sweat. But that optimism doesn't last long as Champion Cynthia stands before us. She is notorious for being brutal and an infamous run ender. She leads with Spiritomb and I with Gastrodon. A Surf does half as we tank a Psychic, and the next turn we can KO with another. Roserade comes out, as upsetting as it is to see, and we have to switch into Staraptor. Shadow Ball doesn't affect us and we can OHKO with a Fly. Milotic, the inferior Sea Serpent, is out and I switch into Mismagius. I go for a Charge Beam as they set up an Aqua Ring. Our second Charge Beam gets the boost and an incoming Ice Beam does about a third. We then get the second boost with another and I start feeling hopeful. Can Mismagius sweep? No is the answer as Milotic uses Mirror Coat and smashes us for the KO. I should have seen that coming, but I'll start at Infernape and come in and fire off a close combat for the KO. This brings out Gastrodon and I switch into Bronzong on the Stone Edge, which does little. We do little with a payback and a Muddy Water almost KOs with a crit. I switch into our own Gastrodon and this is a long back and forth, but using Recover to stay healthy we can eventually take it down with a Surf. Her penultimate mon is Lucario and this thing is so cool, honestly one of my favourites. The Dragon Pulse does little and we do huge damage with a Mud Bomb. I go for Recover as they Aura Sphere and again the following turn to get as healthy as I can as I know what's coming next. They miss a Dragon Pulse thanks to the Mud Bomb accuracy drop and we can KO with Surf. But this does bring out possibly the scariest Pokemon to see, Cynthia's Ace Garchomp. It goes for a Giga Impact which brings us to about a third, but our Body Slam paralyzes. I go for Recover on the recharge turn and now I outspeed, I fire off a Mud Bomb to drop the accuracy as they are fully paralysed. A Surf brings it low and Berry Recovery brings it out of healing range. I don't want her to heal so I go for Body Slam which does little and the next turn we can fire off a Surf for the KO. I was so scared of Garchomp, I was so scared of Cynthia, to the point where I was thinking about training up our ice types to specifically have a Dragon Slayer. But we didn't need it. Gastrodon is a beast. Honestly one of my new fave mons and will be a staple in any Sinnoh run I do in the future. Anyway, maybe I was too harsh about the Pearl Pokédex. It has some great new mons, but the Platinum expansion definitely makes the game so much better. But we have answered the question that yes, you can beat Pokemon Pearl using only native Sinnoh Pokemon from the Pearl Pokédex. I thank every single one of you for watching, and if you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more wacky Pokemon challenges. And if you have anything to add or a run to suggest, let me know down below. And with all that said, stay classy and have a wonderful, wonderful day.